Right, hello and welcome to this week's angling vlog. This week you join me back on the banks of the beautiful and mighty River Ribble. So the target today is Mr. Dace and Mr. Roach, hopefully, and if we're lucky, Mr. Chub. As you can see behind me, the river has been up. You can see the brown on the banks, but it's finding down nicely to a fishable level, and hopefully we can get a few bites today on the float. As you can see on screen now, conditions today are really good. It's grey and overcast because, as we know, Mr. Sunshine likes to come over that hill, and the river has got a good bit of colour to it as well. So we have fished the River Ribble for a few years now, and like I've said on the channel before, YouTube is amazing for getting that excitement before the weekend's fishing or picking up those hints and tips, but there's no substitute for actually getting out on the bank and learning your river. That experience over the years allows you to pick the best area of the river to fish for the conditions. What I mean by that is the river here is quite shallow normally, and over that side it deepens off, but it's faster. So hopefully that bit of extra water has pushed them into the middle, and with that bit extra water on our side of the river, we can draw some fish over. So turning around, that's the box we're going to be set on today. You can see I've got all my gear set up and my rod ready. That is the swim that we're going to be fishing today, and regulars to the channel will recognise it. It is a beautiful glide, and hopefully, like I just said before, them fish that have been topping down the middle at the moment have come over this side when it's been really up the banks, and a few of them have stayed about. So looking at the side tray, I've got about a pint of castor, and I'm going to put some of that in the ground bait, which I'll show you in a minute. I've got some of that Hinders hemp. I've said before, my routine on a Thursday is to put it to soak, and then my excitement before fishing is that smell of hemp in the house on a Friday as I cook it. And then I've got plenty of maggot with me today. I've picked up a few pints because I've got some filming with Korum hopefully next week. So that is the maggot from last week that I got the casters from. So I'm going to start with that. So the rod that I'm using today is my 17-foot carbon active rod. I've got a Korum switch reel with 4-pound line. That is down to a 1.6 gram fineliner float. So when I first arrived on the peg, I mixed up the ground bait. I've left it to settle, and the ground bait we've gone with today is the Hinders Supercharged Black Natural, and I put a full bag of the crumb in there as well from Hinders, that nice aniseed smell. I've put in there quite a lot of castor and some of the hemp, so I can feed nuggets like that into the swim that I hope is just going to keep them fish near the bottom layers, but give that feed content and that smell in the coloured water to keep them coming. So the first cast of the day is going to go slightly over rod tip. I'm going to feed them maggots near enough in line with the peg. The hemp just slightly downstream because we've got a downstream wind. Like I say, I'm going to be nice and positive today. Straight in with a ball of the ground bait, which is laced with that hemp and that castor. And these maggots that I have brought with me to start with are turning really fast. So it could well be that feeding the casters might be the better option. There we go. The first one of the day. And it did feel like there was one or two about because you're getting them little dinks on the float. That was the first proper bite. Big or small, I always like to blog the first fish of the day, and the fact that it's Mr. Dace is a welcome sight. The little silver dart. It's always good to get a bite first cast, no matter what session you're on. It's always a good start. So you're feeding that hemp. That's got a bit farther out, that one, but again, it's all in that line, and who knows, we might have to go out there if the river does drop a lot. So I'm not too concerned about a bit of bait going too far. There we go. When we say draw them in, you know, I did say at the start conditions were really good with that colour in the water and that extra foot in the river, that there could be one or two fish here already, but by just feeding, you know, we've got them on that line, and a few fish to start with is a great start. And the females go a bit slimy, and that's the first one that does just feel that bit of slime on it, and that is a sign that obviously the fish are coming into the area to spawn later on in the year. Draw them fish in, keep the food going in, and hopefully the plan is to keep the bites coming. There's definitely one or two fish now just coming into that little bit of the space down the swim, most definitely. Not a great quality, but that can always come. The float's come a little bit closer in that time, and it is a general slope out on this swim. It is why it's such a nice swim to fish, because it generally is at depth and then it does drop off into the middle, but we're kind of on top of that shelf going down, so we can come that bit closer in and still get the bite. And it is all now about just getting into that routine, really. Feeding the hemp, and that float settled in that liner bait. There we go. You see, it's just going down with that column, and that's right in line with the bait we're feeding. It feels like a better quality one. Best dace of the session so far, and like we said at the start, there was plenty of bites, but that quality is coming now while we're feeding that caster and that ground bait and that hemp and maggot. You know, everything's going in a line, and we're feeding that ground bait nice and positively, and plenty of bait. And these fish now, the quality's improved a bit, and we're getting plenty of bites. You can see there now, these fish right up the swim now, and they're where we wanted them this morning, just that little bit beneath the peg now. We're feeding that ground bait, that hemp, and they're right on top of it. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about the float that I'm using today, and I have used this float for about 2 years now, and the reason why I do like them for my type of fishing, they've got a good shoulder on them, they've got a good bit of stability in the stem. As you can see on screen now, hopefully if I've captured it, that float can really dot down, but when you hold back it resets quite quickly and holds well in the water. So they've got good stability, and then for my type of fishing with the dace, you've got that fineness in the tip for them bites. They really do fit in with this River Ribble fishing, in the way that, you know, it is a spate river, and our shotting pattern being tapered is all about that holding back and that natural fall of a bait. You see there, just holding back as that bait's going through the water. Our maggots are fluttering up, but our float is settling down very quickly, so as that bait falls, if a fish takes it, it's nice and, you know, fine presentation that you're getting. Some proper quality fish now in the swim, and that's a plump dace and fine fettle. You know, absolutely mint condition, those silvery flanks, and a decent plump dace. So feeding wise, I'm being really positive. I'm feeding some of these maggots and casters that are turning, feeding casters, that hemp, and every so often a nugget of that ground bait, and it is really like a putty consistency. You want it heavy so it gets to the bottom, but so you can just squeeze it in one palm and then throw it out. It's going to go straight to the bottom and break up. It's only a shallow swim. So you can see here now we're casting in, we're feeding that ball of that ground bait, the maggots just in line with the peg, and then that bit of hemp just downstream of the peg, and then we're set for the bite. And there we go. See, it's just coming that nice distance down the swim, and it really is beautiful fishing, most definitely. So that tide going out seems to have taken the aggression in the wind with it as well, and for the last bit we're just being treated to some really good fishing just off the rod tip. That float dotted right down, feeding those maggots, hemp and ground bait, and yeah, what a beautiful way to end the day. It really is really good fishing. If you're a stick float angler, it's the dream really, you know, a nice even swim and the fish just holding that nice distance down the swim. And a welcome change from all them days, a quality roach, and that is a real quality roach, that. A great fight on the rod and coming right where that hemp and that ground bait we're hitting the bottom. And I think that one makes it into the category of dog dace, most definitely. Fighting in my palm, but that's a lovely plump dace, that, and a real quality one. And no finer fish to finish on, a real herring of a dace. It's a beautiful specimen, that. Got about half an hour of the session left, so I'm just going to overindulge in a bit of dace fishing at the end, and we'll have a look at that final net. In that last hour I've hooked into a decent fish as them light levels have dropped. That float's buried, and I think it's going to be a perch if I'm honest, but it's just holding down there. It's either going to be a perch, I think, or Mr. Pike, which wouldn't shock me with the amount of fish we've caught today, to be honest with you. But I'm of the mindset of, like, I just want to see it. If it comes off and I've seen it, I'm not too bothered. But we are only on a light hook link, you know, a size 20 hook and 2 pound 8 ounce line, so we just got to take our time. You see a lovely bend in that rod, and I was saying to my uncle before, it is a rod that I've had for a long time, you know, talking 15-20 years. It's caught me some fish on the River Dee and on the Ribble. It's such a rod that I love using, but will it be able to tame whatever we've hooked into here? It looks like a big perch, if I'm honest. I'm going to take my time, I'm just going to try and get it in. What a way to end the video. That is a proper perch, that. And what a battle on that light rod, that light line and that small hook. Just creeping over 3 pound, so proper made up. I think my PB might have been off the River 7, so I'll have to check, but you just look at the mouth on it. No wonder them dace have been disappearing at times, probably down this perch's mouth. We're going to get it straight back and then we'll take a look at the final net. So the session does come to an end there now, and as you can see on screen, a fantastic day's fishing with loads of bites, that quality perch, plenty of quality dace, and yeah, a really good day's fishing on the bank. So at the end of the session, looking back, it really is good when you look at a river and the condition of it, pick the right areas to target, and a plan works. We fed loads of bait today, easily 3 or 4 pints of maggots, 3 pints of hemp, and we fed all that ground bait out the bowl. So yeah, we've really attacked the swim and we've got the results from it. And all that remains is for me to wish you tight lines in your own fishing, and we'll catch you all next week. Tight line.